Tonight matters. That his life mattered. That his silence will not be the final word. Before we can understand the weight of tonight's announcement, we need to step back. We need to walk the path of this case, date by date, moment by moment, because the timeline of baby Emmanuel Haro's disappearance is more than just a series of events. It is a trail of missed chances, contradictions, and haunting questions. August 5th. The day investigators believe Emmanuel was last seen alive. It was an ordinary California summer day, hot, still, the kind of day that seems unremarkable. But hidden inside that day was a tragedy that no one yet understood. 9 days later, August 14th, the call finally came in. Baby Emmanuel reported missing. Not hours later. Not the next day. 9 long days. Imagine that. A child gone. And the alarm raised more than a week after the fact. For investigators, that gap was the first red flag. For the community, it was the first crack in a story that was about to unravel. And unravel it did. From the very beginning, inconsistencies marked the account given by Emmanuel's mother. Her statements shifted. Her story bent. And soon, law enforcement admitted what many suspected: the pieces didn't fit. But here's what shocked so many: no Amber Alert was ever issued. Why? Because the timeline was already broken. Too much time had passed. Emmanuel's case did not fit the criteria. That silence, those missed hours, became another wound in the search for truth. Search teams were deployed. Volunteers combed through rugged ground. Cadaver dogs were brought into the field, their noses tracing the faintest signals of life lost. And in one of the most haunting images of this case, Jake, Emmanuel's stepfather, was photographed in handcuffs, not being led away, but assisting in the search. Shackled wrists. Searching hands. A contradiction frozen in time. As days turned to weeks, the weight of suspicion grew heavier. Investigators went from cautious words to direct accusations. And then, the hammer fell. Both Jake and Rebecca Haro, charged with murder and with filing a false report. Each held on $1 million bail. Their arraignment, scheduled for September 4th, now looms like a storm cloud. And beneath the surface, another horror emerges. This was not the first time. Long-term abuse is suspected. Prior reports. Prior warnings. A justice system that had a chance to intervene, but failed. The cracks in that system may have paved the road that led Emmanuel here. So we ask, how many opportunities were missed? How many signs ignored? And how could a child's life slip so easily through the gaps of bureaucracy, silence, and secrecy? And if you're here, hearing this timeline laid bare, and you haven't subscribed yet, why? Why would you stand outside this circle of accountability when every detail of Emmanuel's case proves how dangerous silence can be? If you will not subscribe, then tell us in the comments why you think you can walk away. Because justice is not a spectator sport. Justice demands witnesses who refuse to look away. And right now, you are one of them. And then, came the words that shifted everything. At a press conference thick with tension, microphones lined up, cameras flashing, reporters leaning forward, the district attorney chose their words with precision. We have a strong indication of where Emmanuel's remains may be found. Strong indication. 2 words that mean progress. But progress without peace. A revelation without resolution. Because while the community hung on every syllable, waiting for the place, the location, the breakthrough, they were met with silence. No coordinates. No maps. No confirmation of the ground where search teams might dig. Just a phrase, carefully measured, locked tight inside the strategy of law enforcement. So what does strong indication mean? It means evidence. It means investigators believe they are closer than ever before. It means the story is shifting from a question of where is Emmanuel to a chilling certainty of what happened to him. But why no disclosure? Why the secrecy? Because in cases like this, timing is everything. One word too soon can compromise a search. One leak of location can send gawkers, tipsters, even suspects racing ahead of the truth. Law enforcement's silence isn't neglect, it is calculation. It is a shield. A way to protect the integrity of the investigation. And yet, try telling that to a community on edge. Try telling that to parents who lit candles at vigils, to neighbors who walked shoulder to shoulder in searches, to strangers online who spread Emmanuel's photo across timelines. For them, silence feels like betrayal. It feels like stonewalling. And for those who have already lost trust in the system, it feels like another way to bury the truth. That's the tension. On one side, the cold precision of the legal system. On the other, the raw urgency of a grieving public. Both wanting justice, but colliding on the road to get there, and here's the part you need to face. If you're not subscribed yet, if you're still sitting back as if this story is just another video in your feed, think about what's really at stake. Not just for Emmanuel. Not just for this one case. But for every child caught in the cracks of silence, secrecy, and delay. Why haven't you pressed that little button yet? Why would you choose to be silent when silence is what allows tragedies like this to go unanswered? Because if Emmanuel's story proves anything, it's this: silence is never neutral. It either protects the guilty, or it fights for the innocent. And you have to choose which side you're on. The search for Emmanuel has been relentless, measured not in hours or days, but in the slow grind of methodical investigation. High above the California hills, drones sweep across rugged terrain, their silent cameras scanning valleys and ridgelines for any trace the human eye could miss. Below, cadaver dogs press their noses into the dirt, moving with quiet determination, animals trained to detect what no one wants to find. Each paw step forward is a step deeper into the haunting possibility of recovery. K9 units, geomapping tools, GPS trackers, forensic sweeps, every instrument of modern investigation is being deployed. Every data point, every movement is logged. Nothing left to chance. Nothing left without record. But here's the truth: searches like this are not about speed. They are about precision. About patience. About the chain of evidence that must remain unbroken if justice is to stand in court. A footprint, a fragment, a trace of soil. Each must be collected, documented, and preserved with surgical care. Because in cases like this, evidence is not just proof, it is Emmanuel's final voice. And behind it all, strategy guides every step. Where the dogs are sent. Where the drones hover. Where the forensic cameras flash. It may look random from the outside, but make no mistake, nothing is random. Every movement is shaped by intelligence, by interviews, by data, by the investigator's determination to close the gap between silence and truth. And then, layered over the science, the most haunting image of all, Jake. Once a stepfather, now a suspect. Escorted in his jumpsuit, led through the very terrain where teams searched for the child he was meant to protect. A man shackled, yet walking the same ground as investigators, as if forced to confront the reality of what's been done. This is what the search for Emmanuel looks like. High-tech tools, highly trained dogs, legal patience, and the shadow of betrayal hanging over every frame. And here's where I have to stop and ask you directly, because you are here, watching this, listening closely. That means you care, or at least you want to believe you do. But caring requires action. So if you haven't hit subscribe yet, then explain why not. Tell us in the comments why you'd sit in silence when silence is the very thing that destroys cases like this. Your voice matters more than you think. Every click, every share, every comment, it amplifies Emmanuel's story. It pushes back against the silence. And silence is exactly what the guilty are counting on. So don't give them that. Not here. Not tonight. While investigators comb the hills and gather evidence, the community carries a different kind of burden, the weight of grief. In Cabazon, in Yucaipa, and beyond, candlelight vigils glow against the night sky. Parents, children, and grandparents stand shoulder to shoulder, holding photos of Emmanuel close to their hearts. Flames flicker, prayers rise, and silence falls heavy on streets that once echoed with the laughter of children. Look closely at their faces, tear-streaked, tired, yet unbroken. Each candle lifted isn't just for Emmanuel. It's for every child whose voice went unheard. Every warning sign ignored. Every tragedy that might have been prevented if only someone had acted sooner. Emmanuel's story has become more than one family's nightmare, it has become a rallying cry. Communities are no longer just mourning, they are demanding change. They are looking at their own neighborhoods, their own systems, their own responsibilities, and asking, are we truly protecting our children? Or are we waiting until it's too late? This is the emotional toll. This is the raw reality. A little boy's life has ended, but his name now carries the weight of something far larger, a call to vigilance, to courage, to action. And here's where you, sitting behind your screen, come into this story. Because this community demands justice. They're out there holding candles in the cold, making their grief public, turning their sorrow into action. What are you doing? If you want justice too, subscribing is the bare minimum. The smallest possible step. And if you don't take even that step, don't fool yourself into thinking you stood for Emmanuel. Because silence, indifference, and inaction, they're the very reasons children like him fall through the cracks. Don't be the person who looks back later and whispers, I could have done something, but I didn't. Press subscribe. Stand with this community. Do the bare minimum, and then do more. In the courtroom, justice is supposed to be the safeguard, the place where past mistakes are corrected, where consequences prevent tragedy. But in Emmanuel's case, the system failed him long before his final days. Back in 2018, records show a prior abuse case involving Haro. A judge handed down a suspended sentence, a decision the district attorney later called an outrageous error. Outrageous because that leniency left a man with a documented history of cruelty free to return home. Outrageous because, according to the DA, had earlier justice been enforced, Emmanuel might still be alive today. Think about that. A child's life stolen, not just by the acts of individuals, but by the cracks in the very system meant to protect him. A suspended sentence. Probation. A warning ignored. And now, a community is left grieving a loss that might have been prevented. This isn't just about one case, it's about accountability. About how many other children fall through the same cracks, how many judges weigh leniency over safety, how many families are failed by the blind spots of a system that is supposed to shield the most vulnerable. Emmanuel's name forces us to confront a chilling truth. Justice delayed isn't just justice denied, it can be fatal. And unless these failures are faced head-on, they will repeat. And here's the moment where you need to ask yourself, what role are you playing? Are you really going to watch this slip through the cracks again without supporting this cause? Are you really just another bystander? Subscribing isn't just a button. It's a declaration that you refuse to sit in silence while children are failed. And if you won't press it, at least have the courage to leave a note in the comments. Tell us why you'd rather watch than act. Why you'd rather remain a bystander when a child's life hangs in the balance. But if you are here for Emmanuel, if you are here for justice, then don't hesitate. Make your voice count. Right now. The story of Emmanuel Haro is far from over. In the coming days, all eyes will turn to the courtroom once again. On September 4th, Jake and Rebecca Haro are scheduled to be arraigned. Charged not just with filing a false police report, but with murder. It will be the first time the justice system formally confronts them for what prosecutors allege they've done. At the same time, search efforts are expected to intensify. With investigators publicly confirming they have a strong indication of where Emmanuel's remains may be, every sweep, every grid, every deployment of cadaver dogs now carries heavier weight than ever before. The tension between silence and revelation has never been sharper. Behind closed doors, the district attorney's team is reviewing evidence, refining legal strategy, and preparing for a trial that could expose not only the acts of two parents, but also the systemic failures that gave them, not reduced to a headline, not lost in the bureaucracy of delay. And let's be clear, the stakes remain high. Evidence must hold up under scrutiny. Legal teams must navigate a process that is slow, deliberate, and often painful for families who just want answers. And the community must remain engaged, because without public eyes and voices, accountability has a way of slipping into shadows. Emmanuel's story is not finished. The road ahead is long, and it demands vigilance. From investigators, from the courts, and from all of us who refuse to look away. The investigation continues. The courtroom waits. The community holds its breath. And Emmanuel's name, his life, his story, remains at the center of it all. This story is still unfolding, and its ending has yet to be written. But here's what we know: silence serves no one. Not Emmanuel. Not the children still at risk. Not the communities demanding justice. Your subscription, it isn't just about numbers. It isn't just about this channel. It is a stand. A refusal to turn away. A refusal to let Emmanuel's memory fade into the background noise of another tragic headline. So don't hesitate. Don't wait until tomorrow. Hit that button now. Let your voice join the thousands already saying, "We will not be silent." Because Emmanuel's name deserves more. Because every child's future deserves more. And because justice demands that none of us sit idle when the chance to act is right in front of us. Subscribe. Stand with us. And together, we will not let Emmanuel's story be forgotten.